Welcome to Care Less with Carly, the podcast for people who are done playing by their roles. I'm your host, Carly Lynn, and each week we'll cut through the noise with real talk, bold conversation, and expert insights to help you trade perfection for purpose and live life on your own terms. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's very special episode of Care Less with Carly. Today, I'm here live in the studio with Simon Squibb. I am so excited. Simon is an entrepreneur, 19-time entrepreneur, an angel investor, newly an author, and the founder of HelpBnk, which is on a mission to help 10 million people own their own businesses. Unbelievable. Now Simon is focused on reimagining education and making entrepreneurship accessible to everybody. Simon, welcome. The last time we saw each other, I was walking across the street and you asked me what my dream was. And I said, I want to be Oprah. And now here you are sitting in the studio with me. And I can't wait to hear your story and learn more about what lights you up and what you're working on. And again, I'm just so grateful you're here.
I'm proud of you. You took the steps,
Thank
you pushed through fear. And I remember that day that I spoke to you and you told me your dream. What really struck me was just the energy and natural talent you have. And now you're applying it to this platform that you believe will help people. It's inspiring. I'm inspired by you, and I'm grateful to be here as your guest.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. And I don't think I've told you this one-to-one, but you are one of my biggest role models in this space, and everything that you have done and are doing to help people remove fear from their lives and remove the blocks and the barriers to starting their own businesses and really pursuing their dreams is everything that I am trying to both encapsulate and also share. So thank you for doing all this.
I'm projecting to the future. Imagine if Oprah sat down and said, Simon, you are my inspiration. So I got a clip of Oprah saying that, like,
well, hold on to this
a few years ago, like 20 years ago. So I'm gonna take this recording, and when you are the next Oprah, which I really believe you're going to be, then I'm gonna play it back and take full credit. It was all me.
Well, I will be the first one to like and subscribe on that. So thank you. So you're here in New York. You're visiting from London. Can you tell our audiences a little bit about the exciting work you're doing with Sir Richard Branson?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I think that since I saw you the last few years, we've basically grown the platform to 500 million views a month on average. So it's and just to put that in context for the listeners, like the BBC, one of the largest broadcasting organizations in the world, funded by people in Britain, it is less than that, and it's thousands of people. And we have a team of 42 people, and our whole mission is to help people believe in themselves, help people go for their dreams, and it's what we call fun education. The last 2 years, the growth has been incredible, but the thing that's really exciting, I guess, is that we're now building out a network. The problem is that talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not. So the mission, in part, as well as enabling people to start a business if they want, is also to make opportunities for everybody, and it's everywhere. Okay. So one way that we're doing that, of course, is through social media. It can be global, it can be instant. You can promote your dream. I can meet you, promote your dream, and it can happen. But it's also, access. So if you're listening today and you have a dream and you want some exposure for your dream, maybe some funding for your dream, maybe access to knowledge, then where do you go? Physically, for sure, there is nearly nothing. So you've got, maybe Shark Tank. You can apply and go on and get exposure, but they only want product businesses. So maybe often businesses that are already up and running. What if you just want to start something? There is no real platform, even TV show, that gives people who just have an idea a chance to make it happen.
Right. Like, what's the next step?
Yeah. Or even how do I get started? I've got this idea. How do I get the manufacturer? I've got this idea. How do I build the app?
Sure.
Those basics.
I love your podcast, the Simon Says podcast, because I love when listeners call in and you're like, you want to start a fishing lodge. You do this and this and this.
Exactly.
You give people probably more information in a 30-second clip than they could get if they were scouring the internet. So I love that.
I think that there's a lot of people talking about raising money, and we all hear about these huge tech valuations. So tech companies can raise money from VCs and so on. But what about a normal person that maybe wants to start a dog walking business? It doesn't have to all be about this big. I think lifestyle businesses are really exciting. Yeah. If you can build a business that you enjoy working at and it pays all your bills, it's better than working in a job you hate. Right? 85% of people in America hate their job. That should not be true in this day and age. So back to what's happening in New York. We're here to set up our Doorbell of Dreams. So we've just launched it at the Virgin Hotel with Sir Richard Branson, one of my business heroes.
So cool.
So, without name dropping, he of course is a billionaire who's built airlines and done all sorts of amazing things. And so you can go and pitch your dream to that doorbell. Myself and Sir Richard Branson see those videos, reply, try to help. And then we post those videos up on our social media platforms. And what's really exciting is we've got a whole slew of really successful entrepreneurs that are also now watching the videos, giving feedback and helping. So it's really exciting. I've been pitching it as the modern Shark Tank.
I love it.
And you can just go in to the doorbell, press your button, pitch it, and that's it. It can become real.
I mean, thinking just about that access, right? If you think about just Shark Tank, the opportunity to be a contestant on Shark Tank and then be one of the ones that actually makes it through the final rounds and then gets aired is beyond slim. And then you're giving people the opportunity to come pitch directly to you of incredibly impressive entrepreneurs. That's so exciting. You mentioned briefly lifestyle businesses, but you must hear tens of thousands of pitches. So what separates a good pitch from a great pitch and one that you're like, this is a dream we're going to invest in?
I think it's the personality matching the purpose. So that's what I felt about you when I met you. You were right on the money about what you should be doing. The fact you weren't doing it yet is a different thing, but I see it. I know it. Like I am destined to fix the education system. If I'm analyzing myself, I see it in my energy and I see it in my action, right? So probably everyone, they've seen people that say that they care about the planet and then that they're driving a
right, yeah.
Like
throw their water bottle out.
Exactly. You got to match what people say with their actions, and sometimes it can literally be how they look. Like I have this joke on my team. I love dogs, and sometimes dogs look like their owners. I know this sounds random. Well, yeah. And I have a working Cocker Spaniel, and this dog just doesn't stop. Yeah, but I think I think in business and life and what you do for a living, you should match everything up with who you are.
Yeah.
So when you ask me, what do I look for? I look for authenticity. I look for people who aren't just saying something because they're filling a market gap and trying to make money. I look for people that are really passionate and honest about the problem they're trying to solve and why it matters to them.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that I was reminded of when I was reading your book about the importance of purpose and how without genuine purpose, not in the woo-woo way, which you also acknowledge, but that source of renewable energy that gets you up every morning, that gets you excited, that makes you resilient when things are hard. Things are hard no matter what. If you're working a job you don't love, if you're unemployed, like things are hard, or if you're starting a business, things are hard. But when you have that purpose and I'm doing this because I really care about X, that hard doesn't feel the same. It feels like just a step that you have to take. And I love the way you articulate that in the book.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think the word "it's hard" or that sentence, that concept of "it's hard," I think building a business isn't hard. The thing is, I think what people perhaps perceive as hard is the learning. So like, of course, walking up a mountain is hard.
Right.
But if you do the preparation and you think about it and you get ready and you train and then you do your research about how other people have done it, like you can make it less painful, but you want it to be a little bit painful.
Totally.
That's the whole point.
I really want to dive into this because, well, I'll talk to our listeners, but you started your first business at 15. So I think at 15, when you don't have that life experience, now looking back, you're like, okay, yeah, of course, I was hungry and I needed to make it work because you had a really difficult life circumstance. I imagine that was hard at 15.
But I look back now and think, wow, what an interesting, young life that I had.
Right.
At the time, yes, it was hard, but I'm glad. In fact, I think it's a lot easier for it to be very hard when you're young. Like you have less responsibility and you have more time, like physically in a day, not just your age, but you have time in the day. I have an 8-year-old son now who is back in London. I'm missing him like crazy. But like every spare minute I have, I spend with him. So I don't really have any spare minutes, but when you don't have those sorts of responsibilities, you can go and do stuff, right? And I think you should go and do hard stuff. I remember when I moved to Hong Kong at 24, I thought I worked hard till I moved to Hong Kong. I wasn't working hard.
What happened then?
I just realized, one big revelation for me, I was in Hong Kong the first week I was there. I didn't know anybody when I moved there, but I happened to meet a guy and bizarrely, his father was a billionaire. And he said to me, "Oh, nice to meet you." We got chatting and we quickly connected, as you do sometimes with people. And then he said, "Oh, do you want to come on Sunday to my dad's boat?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." It's like, my dad's got this yacht, do you want to come? I'm like, okay. I'm like, it's a Sunday. Doesn't he want to like be with his family? And like, does he really want this random guy you've just met to come on? He's like, no, come along. And when I went on that Sunday, what I noticed about him as a billionaire, his lifestyle, and I've since noticed about everybody I've ever met who's successful, there's work-life integration. There's no work-life balance. See, I always had this in my head, that work-life balance, Sundays were for relaxing.
Sure.
Right. And then I realized, well, why can't you relax? If you're working with people you like and you're doing work you like that's meaningful, then hey, Sunday, let's do it. So, since that age, I have not separated my work and life. So my business partner for 15 years in my agency, Fluid, was my wife.
Right.
She became my wife, by the way. She was just my business partner. We worked well together. Turned out.
It's a good litmus test.
It is. Frankly, it kind of is. Like I always tell people, if you live with someone, you learn a lot, right? Yeah. When you work with someone, you see a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So I saw how kind my wife is. I saw that when we needed the money, she still thought about the people in the company more than us, with her in particular. So I think that really teaches you. And I love that, because in business, it's like, some people have the attitude, well, it's just business, don't take it personally. And if you've got people that got that attitude, you don't want to marry them. Yeah. That's for sure.
And I know you celebrated an anniversary kind of recently.
We 23 years together. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. It was such a beautiful post. The way you talked about this is the most important relationship.
Probably my biggest success.
And your biggest success.
Still being in love and respecting each other. Yeah.
Beautiful. As somebody who is newly engaged, I really appreciate that.
You got to do it with the car keys. I was just telling Carly with the car keys. You got to do it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, any car sponsors out there?
Come on, man.
Yeah. And I think, growing a business alongside a partner is an incredible accomplishment. And I know you did go on to later sell that business and then create so many other businesses in the process. But now you are on a mission to help 10 million people achieve their dreams. So where did that purpose derive for you?
It's interesting because I have this thing now. I can figure out anybody's purpose in about 60 seconds. Right. I can drill down. I had to do it for myself. So I'm writing a second book, by the way, and it's going to be a bit about like how to discover your dream. Okay. But I think the thing is, what I discovered about myself was, okay, there's two ways to figure out your dream. The first is list what you enjoy doing. So you're a brilliant communicator. You like chatting to people.
I love chatting.
So why not stick a microphone in front and a camera so the rest of the world can enjoy the conversation, right? If we were going to catch up anyway,
right?
So why not do it so the whole world can listen and learn maybe something from it? Why not, right?
And I also really love learning about other people, and I love learning about other people's stories. Yeah. I think, and you talk about this too, that before we lived in this world, we were in tribes, and storytelling is the way that we survived. We learned about people, we learned about what works, we learned about what doesn't work. If you didn't listen to the stories, you didn't know that if you walk over there, there's bears live over there. So I think storytelling is one of the most important arts that we as human can share. And that's the other part. I love chatting and I love hearing people's stories. I like asking questions, I think, even more than I like sharing my own. So you just figured out my purpose in 60 seconds.
Yeah. No, but it's and what I love about, again, like, I want people, if they're listening to, maybe there's going to be two types of people listening. There's going to be people that know their dream and there's people that don't.
Right.
Okay. And then there's people that think they know their dream and they've miscategorized what a dream is. So, for example, they might say, I want to be rich. That is not a dream you should aspire to. Right. Because money runs away when you chase it. Just like, I'm thinking back a long time ago, but there was a girl I really liked. I texted her all the time. I messaged her. She ran away. Like, she's like, people don't want to be chased. Right. Money doesn't want to be chased.
Energetically, it's not.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah. You basically want to be confident in yourself, know who you are. And I think when it comes to business, you want to like just be consistent because you enjoy it, and then money comes. If you chase money, it does run away. You've got a business, you've got to think about what value you can bring to the world, what value you can put into the system, not what you can extract from the system. Nearly everybody who's successful, they're actually not chasing money, most of them. And I'm not necessarily going to name names, but I do love studying the history of successful people, and quite a few of the very successful people, if you look at their history, despite what people think of them, they're not chasing money. They're chasing fixing a problem or building something that matters.
Right.
And I think that people took a little bit from that. So back to how do you find your dream? You list out your passions and what you're naturally good at, like in your case, communicating and so on. And then you try to link it to a problem in the world that bothers you, right? So what in the world, can you fix? right? You were telling me off air about your branding here, right? People need to care less about certain things that stop them following their dreams, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a pain point you felt.
Of course.
Because perhaps you feel people judge you, or there's going to be judgment. And I think that's a pain point you felt that you're fixing for the rest of the world, which is why it's on point for you.
Yes.
And I think if other people think about it, how can you tie what you love to do naturally, skill set wise, with something in the world you want to fix? And if you don't know there's something in the world you want to fix, then go work with someone who has something in the world you want to fix. But make sure you get equity where you work. That's the only caveat.
It's good advice. So at what point in building these companies did you decide that your purpose would be helping others find their dreams?
Well, again, when I analysed what I want to do next, I saw my company and I thought, okay, what shall I do? I took 2 years off to really think about this. And I just distilled my life down into like, okay, what happened to me? 15 years old, my father suddenly dies of a heart attack. Well, maybe I should be working on like heart disease and helping solve that problem. And well, I'm not a surgeon. I don't like biology. I don't know how I can use my skills to do that.
Right.
And then I thought, well, what happened to me next? I fell out with my mother. Well, relationship counseling, maybe there's something in that. And then I realized 15 years old, I was put out into the world and I'd been in school 12 years and I knew nothing. I didn't know how money worked. I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know anything about how to survive in the real world. And I tried to get a job and I couldn't because I was too young. I went to social services to try and get help. They told me to go away. So then I had this moment where I'm like, well, what do I do? Right. The only thing I can remember in school is like, get a job, get a job, get a job. Right. If you get good qualifications, you'll get a job, you get a job. And I'm like, that's the problem with the school system. Yeah. It's given me this one mindset, get a job. And I'm like, no, that's not right. I want people to know they've got other choices. They don't have to go to university and spend 4 years of their life to get a job. You can create one for yourself around your hobbies, around what your passions are. That's what I wanted for people.
There's something that I know you speak a lot about, which is that hard work is almost a prerequisite for that feeling of success. In a world that is becoming increasingly more convenience-based, we are lacking the opportunities to do that hard work, right? Going back to the tribe, you used to go hunt, used to cook. Everybody had a job and you needed to. And there was a sense of camaraderie, a sense of
because it wasn't about money, it was about community.
Right, it was community, it was purpose, it was survival. Now, you don't have to leave your house. You can have everything delivered to your door, your meals, your trade, whatever you need is at your door. So what's the recipe, do you think, for encouraging people who are just not motivated? There is that lack of hard work. And I even think about it now. You're a dad. You have an 8-year-old. How are you going to raise somebody who is young and hungry?
Well, I think there's two ways. I do think people need to move away from just wanting it to needing it. So there's two ways that you do that. If you think about it from a context of like, in my case, yes, I had no choice. I couldn't get a job. Social system wouldn't help me. Right. So I just didn't have a choice. It's that or basically die. Right. So I think it's quite powerful. And I probably wouldn't have done it unless that had happened to me. So I'm grateful, actually. Yeah. I think.
And now look how far you've come.
Exactly. And I love my life. And I just think that I wouldn't be able to do what I do today if I hadn't had that pain back then. And I think, but there is, if I could give something to someone who's listening now, it would just be this part of the brain that tells you you do need it. You don't just want it. And it can come from this concept. I was speaking to someone on the way here who, told me their dream. Basically, I said to them, they were like, oh, I don't want to post. I'm a bit nervous. I'm like, listen, it's not about you posting and the fear of you posting. If your mission is important and you care about solving this problem, and then you don't post the knowledge that you've got to the world, and I'm using social media as an example, but like it doesn't have to just be social media, but in general, if you don't take action, like if you didn't take action to make this podcast happen, maybe then someone's listening to this podcast right now who changes their life, and who knows, they could go on to cure cancer. Right. Because they're like, you know what? I've got an idea. Everyone tells me it's impossible. I'm going to go and do it now. It might be an extreme, maybe even unlikely thing, but that's the thing. I think people need to tell themselves, they need to shift their mindset into, this isn't about them. This is about helping people. And if you really believe in what you're doing and you really believe it's going to be value to society, you have to almost pretend if you don't do it, someone dies.
You have to do it.
And I told them as a joke, really, but the irony is that your spirit dies if you don't do it.
Of course.
If you don't follow your natural path, then your spirit dies. And I see it in people every day, I see people in jobs, even good jobs,
Yeah.
they've given up on their dreams.
Yeah.
They've given up on hope.
What a position to be in, to be able to go and shake them alive a
Yeah.
little bit and give them also, to how we started the conversation, access, resources, financial resources, educational resources.
There's no
Because
excuse now.
right.
You've got a phone in your hand, you can do it.
It's amazing. There's an initiative, or maybe it's more of a philosophy that I know you're very supportive of, which is the give without take. And I think so much of when we do tap into our purpose is that thinking. It's when you are in a place where you're putting your dream out in the world. If you're giving with the expectation of like, this is going to create real meaningful change in somebody's life, then it's like a ripple effect. Think of all the people you impact. And I was listening to a podcast that you were on. You said, if everyone took 4 minutes to help somebody else, we could stop a world war. And I feel that deeply in my core, that there is so much goodness that comes from helping change one person's path the way that you're helping me. Our conversation walking across the street, probably, you asked me what finally made you do it, probably was extremely validating for me taking this. And then the person, my listener, who's going to go cure cancer, we just saved the world.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Way to go.
Yeah, well done between us. Yeah. But that's the ripple effect of one person helping another without any expectation of anything in return. I think about someone listening to this, it's like, there is an element of like, I've got the resources to help people today. Right. And a lot of people listening won't have the resources to help someone today. But the irony is, if you want your dream to happen, you kind of have to help someone else's dream happen. It's like when I was young, I remember blowing out a birthday cake and my granddad saying this to me. He's like, "You're going to make a wish?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to make a wish." He says, "If you want it to come true, make the wish for someone else."
Oh, wow.
And so that really stuck with me, like it's like that idea that birthday cakes, again, I think this is a US tradition as well as a British tradition. We make a wish, right?
Yeah.
And up to that point, it was always like, I want this and I want that. And then I remember making this wish for someone else and it came true.
That's great grandpa wisdom.
Totally.
Even walking here, I'm thinking about, wow, I can't believe this. Like I'm going to sit down with Simon today. And my thought, yes, is of course, this is so exciting. But I thought, I remember how it felt the first time I was talking to Simon, and I had this dream inside me it felt like a fire, and that I was just like, shh, no. And I hope somebody listening sees that I did it. And I put one foot in front of the other, and eventually, okay, I launched my social media site, and okay, I started reaching out to guests, and I made a logo, all these little steps. I think you've even said, if you want to move a mountain, it starts with one rock. So I hope somebody listening sees me and this conversation as an example of like, if you put it out, you can do it.
Yeah.
So
and it is step by step. I bought a staircase in London. Literally, the whole point is symbolism. That I think sometimes when I listen to people's dreams, the dreams are brilliant, but they've made them so lofty that they don't take the first step, because the first step feels like this massive, massive undertaking. So there's practical things you can do, put some money aside, give yourself a bit of a runway. I think at least 6 months, have a little bit of time to be able to work on your dream. At the same time, what are the things you can do that are free, like register your social media handles and talk to one potential customer and see if they would, if you had this X, Y, and Z, buy it. Like there's so many things people can do and they should do before this huge step of like quitting and starting and that's it, right? But there is a point where people need to commit and take a risk,
right?
Because if your back's not against the wall, you probably won't fight,
right?
So every success story out there, I love the Airbnb story, because those guys were almost bankrupt and they did nothing but phone calls for like weeks trying to get an investor, and everyone was saying no. It was literally, they were about to give up, literally said, "We can't do this anymore, let's stop." And they made one more phone call and then they got the investor.
Wow.
So you just got to keep fighting,
right?
And I think, but you got to enjoy the fight. That's the other thing.
Well, so going back to that question about how you're going to raise your son to have that fight.
Right.
So when you come from nothing, you said it's almost easier when you're in a position of like, you need it to survive. How do you cultivate that? How can we help people get back to wanting and being hungry to build and to grow? Because you need that to feel successful.
We might have to do this podcast again in 20 years. Because I can't say I've got a case study of, in business, I know what I'm doing. I've got examples where I started something from nothing and it's been a real success. Yeah. By the way, I started stuff that's also failed. But my point is like, with my son, he's 8, okay? And right now, he's a little bit spoiled, I'm being honest. I mean, I don't mind it. I think he's really sweet. But, sometimes he will say, I want that Lego. And I say, yes. So, I think there is a discipline as a parent that you have to make people, your kids in particular, maybe have value for things, right? I think the truth is, the way I look at my relationship with my son is like, he's teaching me stuff, actually.
What's he teaching?
So like, he reminds me to enjoy things more, you know, like we went economy the other day and he loved it. He's like, oh, Daddy, the plane's taking off. Look at the sky. We're Leo. Look at it. And I'm like, yeah, the meal's awful. And this seat, I can't even move my legs.
I can't even go back.
I'm like, and he's reminding me just how amazing air travel is, like he's teaching me to be grateful that I could even be on a plane. It's and through his eyes, like the whole world is just this magical place. And I think like he talks about buses, for example, like they're magic. All these people in one place hanging out. That's fun. He's very sociable. I'm like, yeah, you just want to get your own car and like lock the door when you drive by.
Right.
People don't
that's what happens
break into
when you
your car.
become an adult.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like I think kids are sent here to teach us stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach him stuff, but what I noticed about being a parent is that kids don't do what you say; they do what you do. So if I'm kind to people and I'm polite to people, he mimics me. So I've tried to be a better human to set an example for him. But one of the things is I will not leave my son my money. I think that's one thing I do know, because if I do my job right,
it's interesting.
If I do my job right, and I give him all the knowledge he needs, I think this concept of like, I want to give people a fishing rod, not a fish. If I give him a fish, what good will that do him? Money in itself can corrupt and make you lazy.
Yeah.
Just having no money can also do that to you. Right? And I see it in both sides. I've been poor and I've been rich. I see both sides of the equation. We always can use an excuse, having too much money or not enough money, to not do something. And I think I want my son to know how to fish, if that makes sense. Yeah. And my job is to give him a fishing rod. And the irony is, I need to make sure, I'm going to get kind of confusing here now, but like the fishing rod has to be tailored to his personality, So I think I'm trying to learn with him and look at him as an individual person. I don't want to use my survival bias against him because I survived using entrepreneurship as a way. It might not be for him. Maybe he's meant to crack some code or solve some mathematical problem that helps humanity cure cancer. So I'm trying to keep an eye on what he wants, but I do think money will corrupt. So I will give away all my money before I die.
That's really interesting. I wasn't expecting you to say that. I think sometimes parents who are in a position of, financial security do have it actually a little more challenging when they raise kids because their kid wants a Lego and it's easier to say, okay, get the Lego. Yeah. But it's interesting because you, not only were you not given a fishing rod, I don't even think you were given a pond, and you found the pond and got the fishing rod.
Analogy.
So now you have a different approach, and that has gotten you to this point now where you have enough of a sense of confidence in yourself and what you're capable of, and this resume of building teams and businesses, that you're tackling the education system. I mean, on the spectrum of starting a small business, starting your dog walking business, to tackling education, you're on the full other side. So it is kind of amazing what you've been able to do with that survival instinct. So I appreciate you just saying how you're thinking about the next generation. Yeah. But to education, if there was one lofty change you'd make, what would that change be? What is the education system you wish to see?
There's a very complicated answer. I've spent a long time thinking about this, and there's almost like a policy document I could go through now. But
we'll link that.
I think the simpler version, I think the fundamental element of education that needs changing is like, what is the purpose of education? So if you actually look at the history of education, recent modern education was actually designed to get you to work in a factory. Okay, so the alarm bell ringing is lunchtime, dinner time, just like in factory. You all, sit down, do a job on your own, exam on your own, and then you stop and you're graded whether or not you were good at that thing. But in the real world, if you want to be successful, you have to collaborate, right? It's not just me pulling a lever or me doing an exam. It's us doing an exam and us pulling that lever. That's how successful people win. Right, 1 + 1 = 11. So I think the whole, let's just be honest about what the education system is and label it for what it is. It's a system designed to get people to get a job. So I think the first step is just acknowledging the white elephant in the room. What was the school system there to do, right? And I think the second step is like, okay, what could we do to change it? I think is a very simple thing. I took my son to his nursery when he was 4 years old. I was originally going to put him in a private school, okay? Thinking, this is what you do. socialization and all those sorts of phrases that you get told when you're a young parent. So we take him to its nursery. And the first day in nursery, we're allowed to sit with the kids and be there because the kids are scared, right? First day at school. So I sit there and this lovely teacher, and teachers are amazing, by the way. Teachers are not the problem. Yeah. Teachers are also stuck in this system. But the teacher said, welcome, kids, welcome. Now, these kids are all 4 years old. There's 11 of them, right? And the teacher says harmlessly, but this is the beginning of the problem with the education system. She says, okay, kids, right. Who wants to tell us what they want to do when they grow up? And every single one of those kids suddenly looked panicked. My son looked at me. I could see it in his eyes. Daddy, what should I say to make the teacher happy? And I knew in that exact moment, I had this philosophy in my head already, but I knew it to be true, that the way that we need to approach is not like, as soon as he says a job role, there's a path that everyone can put him on. And he's not going to know if he wants to be a lawyer 20 years from now, but this subconscious training so young, 0 to 7 in particular is your subconscious years. If you know saying lawyer makes everyone in the room smile, you might say it forever to make everyone else happy and not ever tap into what makes you happy. And so I think the better question, and I would start from day one if I was in charge of the education system, the first question we ask our kids is not what will they do when they grow up, but what problem do they want to solve? Because that allows you to do many different careers and many different things and care about something bigger than yourself. So I think that the whole system needs to change. And I think that underpinning philosophy of what is it there to do? On the other side, it's like just a philosophy of, okay, how can we open up minds? How can we give people more choice, more options, not less, not one track, one way, go to university, get a job? That's basically the whole education system for everybody in the world is one track. And I just think that needs to completely be turned on its head, even more so with AI on its way.
Well, so much of the, the care less philosophy is veering off the conventional path. It is dismissing what you're taught is the benchmark of success.
I think it's just giving people more choice. Yeah. A lot of people think that I'm trying to make everyone an entrepreneur. I'm not.
Right.
Entrepreneurship just gives you choices.
Yeah.
And if you say to your boss, I want a pay rise, and they say no, you can say, all right, I'll go create my own business.
Yeah.
You've got a choice. If you've got this skill set, you've got one more choice. Yeah. That's it. That's all I want for people.
Yeah. And I know you also firmly believe that everybody can be their own boss,
100%.
Can start a company and can be rich, which I love because it's a complete 180 of thinking. And I also think within a school system, should be more interpersonal skills. How do you be somebody who is altruistic, who gives back? How do you have fulfilling, stable, healthy relationships so that you can be married for 23 years? We don't have any of that out.
Well, in fact, I go a step further. I think people get changed by the system. They're not following the natural who they are. Like owning things is somehow taught to young people is what's going to make you happy.
Right.
And I know the sad reality is if I say, oh, owning things doesn't make you happy, the comments, I see them straight away. Oh, it's okay for a rich guy to say that, but what I've learned it the hard way that, if you own things and if you're paying for them in any form monthly, then you're working for those companies.
Right.
If I own a Ferrari today and I'm paying finance on it, I work for Ferrari. Every time I sell an hour to pay them, I work for them. If you don't own stuff, it doesn't own you. Yeah. And then you can own the most valuable thing you could possibly own in the world. The only thing that money can buy of any value, and it's time. You cannot get time back. But every day people sell it really cheap, right? With interest. They have to pay on stuff they don't need.
Yeah. And that's why your mission of opening up people's minds to the idea of doing something different. I remember you talking about somebody that you stopped on the street who was holding a sign, twirling a sign for McDonald's.
It's got me a lot of hate, this place.
Yes, right. You said.
Someone very big on the internet actually did a video on it and portraying me very negatively about it, taking what I said out of context.
Right.
And for the listeners listening, basically, it was a guy who was standing in the street in England holding a sign that says phones, cheap phones, this way, I think it was. And I was fascinated by him and just went up to him and just said, what's your dream? And he's like, I'm doing it. I'm like, so your dream is to stand in the street, holding this sign. And I think, I've watched the video myself a few times. It can come across like I'm being condescending.
Sounds like you were curious.
I was curious, exactly. I'm like, no. I thought he was joking. I thought he was joking with me. When someone's like putting a leg, and I'm like, come on, this, I can't imagine. It might be that is his dream, right? I just couldn't accept it, and that is either to my detriment or I'm right, and this isn't really his dream. He's either trapped or he might have been the owner and just pretending.
Right.
I never got the truth out of him, but he said this was his dream. And I'm like, this job can be done by a breeze block. I don't know if you use breeze blocks here. It's a heavy brick, and you can literally stick the pole in this heavy brick, and it will hold up the pole that he was holding. I'm like, you're a human being. You know how magical you are? You incredible.
Right.
I use this joke, which is basically like, if Elon Musk today announced that he had recreated a human, can you imagine? Like, he's managed to have something that breathes and thinks and recharges itself, looks after itself, potentially lasts 100 years.
Critical thinking.
Thinks critically. Yeah. Unbelievable. The stock price of Tesla would go through the roof, right? You've created a human. Oh my God, the world would go berserk, right? We should give every human their full potential. Yeah. And so, but I got a little bit of hate online and I understand it. I think people think I was being condescending. I was just mind blown.
Yeah.
What, did he really love standing in the street in the rain holding this pole?
It seemed like you wanted to know that answer.
No.
I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. Something that I'm really committed to on this podcast is providing actionable steps. So I want to reiterate, before you were talking about these are the steps to coming up with purpose, so many of the listeners that I connect with, they all have these ideas, but they feel stuck. So if a listener catches one soundbite of this episode and they're feeling stuck or they're not sure their purpose, what's the step?
Well, I think just try something. My first thing was a gardening company. That was definitely not my purpose, but I learned to sell. I learned to hire people. I learned about cash flow. I just started something. I think if you're not sure, try it. And of course, if you can try it without it being a huge cost, and then, risk can be mitigated. That is the first step. And you've got to accept that people might judge you. People may laugh at you. You may fail. You may lose a bit of money. You may lose a bit of time, but you won't live with regret, at least, right? The biggest thing that's worse in life I see in older people that I talk to is regret. You didn't try and do it. Right. That's the worst.
Yeah, you've said the biggest risk is the risk of not trying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So a couple of questions to end on. You've done so much incredible work in your life and you have so much experience. So I really am curious now, looking back, what does a successful life mean to you?
Such a great question. I wish people would ask themselves this because it is a very personal thing.
Yeah.
To me, the number one is owning my time. I want to decide where I spend my time. So if I want to come to New York, I want me to make that decision. Every hour is precious and it's finite. So that's number one. I own my time. I make the decisions about my time. I think the second element is, for me, again, deep relationships with a few people. Like I will make the effort. You'll say the grass is greener on the other side. I think the grass is greener where you water it. So that, like, the deep relationships. I think the kind of concept of meaningful work, something that gives me a reason to enjoy what I do. And not every day, I'm not happy every day. I don't enjoy every day. I definitely have highs and lows in a day, even if I love what I do. But I at least have a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day. I'm working with someone recently who's in the government, and they've made a plan, took them 2 years, and then it got rejected. They're not able to deliver on the thing. They don't have control over their destiny. So they spend 2 years of their life drafting something that is brilliant, that's never going to get used. And I don't want that. Right. I want to work on something where no one can stop me. It's why I love social media. No TV channel can cancel me. There's no one saying, oh, we've had enough of Simon, now he's out. We don't believe, he's not popular with the latest government, so we're shutting down that show.
Right.
I mean, without getting political, there's a very, very funny comedy show just been cancelled because he's not politically in line with the present political party. I'm like, that is crazy to me, right? So I don't want to ever be in that situation. I want control over my destiny. And so, yeah, so that's it really. Money is, I don't really care about it. Yeah. But it's easy for me to say that I'm rich now. But I never really cared about it. I've never chased money. My whole life, I've just chased like making an impact, making a difference, helping people's businesses. My whole life, that's all I've really cared about. Enjoying what I do as a selfish thing, but making sure what I do actually makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that comes through with every breath of yours. So I want to thank you so much for being here. I think that's a good place to land. And thank you to all the listeners. Again, Simon is out there doing the work. He's put in years and years of his own hard-earned experience, his own money, his time. How can we support you? How can we continue to champion you?
If people listen to your show and share it and comment on it and your dream comes alive, you'll be able to help even more dreamers and I can retire.
I'll take the reins. I'll take your reins.
Please feel free. No, support you would mean a lot to me. If people
Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, you heard that. That's an order. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Care Less with Carly. If If this episode resonated with you or reminded you to stop living by someone else's rules, I would love to hear about it. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, leaving a quick review means the world and helps more people find the show. If there's a guest you'd love to hear from, DM me their name at carelesswithcarly on Instagram or drop me a comment. I'm always looking for powerful, honest voices to bring into this space. Until next time, you got this. Keep caring less about what others think and more about what makes you come alive.